I'm doing it for my daughter.
The with boxing, I think there is something. It's a limited art form. There's less you can do. Like
yeah.
If you encounter a guy that's a really good boxer and all you can do is box, you're in trouble. But if you can do leg kicks, then you're not so much in trouble. And with MMA, the meta is kind of always changing, which is one reason why it's less of a high art form, is because limitation is what breeds. Limitation is necessary to create great art. This is going to go down a rabbit hole here. Should I just shut up? I need more zen.
Yeah, I think the zen is working double time right now.
I'll rant and you guys can just fast forward 20 minutes here, okay? So when I was in art school, Nick, do you remember?
Yeah.
Chris, did you know that I went to art school?
Yeah, you went to RISD.
Okay, art school, total waste of time, waste of money, horrible place full of
Silly Billy,
etc. But I learned something, and this is important for anybody to know. When we were the way they used to edit film, they used to do it on a machine where you would you'd actually cut the film and you'd have to tape it together. And the machines we used were called Steenbeck machines. You can look this up. Steenbeck film editing machine, spell it however you want. Named after the famous film producer Joel Steenbeck.
I wish it was just regular Beck, and it was like, cut the film, man. We do the monkey drop because it dropped the film drop. A do wop stop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know who it's named after, but
Jeff,
to make edits, you would have to actually cut the film, and so it took maybe 2 minutes to make a cut. So if you were going to cut together 10 shots, you'd be sitting there for hours, man. Okay, and the byproduct of this is that when it is more difficult to do something, you think about it way more in a way that you possibly can't force yourself to do when you're sitting in front of a computer where you can make a cut in 7 seconds. Does this make sense?
Well, you're breaking it down to its fundamentals.
No. You are thinking deeply about the small thing that you're doing.
You're cutting a shot, like a film negative sequence.
Yes.
And you're cutting the physical film.
Cutting the physical film.
And you're rebonding it.
You're cutting out this part, you're taking these two pieces and putting them together. It's the simplest thing. You've done it. You do it in Premiere, right?
Yeah.
You're putting tape over it. But this process, it takes maybe 45 seconds if you're really good or something. I don't remember exactly how long it takes. But the thing is, though, because it takes so long, you don't want to fuck up. Okay, so it's like almost like carpentry where it's measured twice, cut once.
Yeah, like Japanese
Nobody measures twice and cuts once on a digital. It's a DAW. No, it's not a DAW. That's for audio,
That's for
right?
Audio, yeah.
It's what do they call these fucking things?
Video editing software. You want the actual?
What did they call video editing software when it first came out? Non-linear editing software. There was a name for it that has fallen out of use, but I don't want to forget what it was.
A VES.
Can you look? NLE. That's it. A non-linear editing system. So the non-linear editing systems, because they're so fast, you are not measuring twice and cutting once. You're just chopping it up and seeing how the slop looks afterwards. Okay. So it's forcing you to think very deeply. Not philosophically, but it's forcing you to actually think about what you're doing. Now, if you go over to car design, if anybody who has their eyes open wonders why do cars look like shit.
Yeah.
And if you ever see, it's kind of hard to get the picture because when you see like a big body Cadillac or something rolling around, they're usually in disrepair. They're usually a hoopty, and it's like, oh, look at that piece of shit. But when you see a nice one, it's like, holy shit, how have we fallen so far as a country that we're not producing these metallic rolling pieces of art anymore.
Right.
And one of the reasons is all the safety stuff, and BMW and Mercedes are designing specifically for Chinese customers and stuff like that. Those are all a factor. But the biggest factor, there's two big factors, and they both play into this. One of them is the nicotine, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 100% the nootropics.
It's a nootropic? Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
it is.
One of them is the changeover from drawing and clay modeling to computer-aided design. So if you have a giant clay model in front of you, you're going to try not to fuck that up.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass.
You're going to measure twice, you're going to cut once, you're going to take probably more time. You're probably going to look at it 10 times more. You're going to look at the clay model 10 times more and 10 times harder because you know how costly it is to make another giant full-scale clay model. And they still do giant clay models, but they do this after the computer process nowadays. Back in the day, it was after the drawing process. When you're drawing, I mean, I don't even think I'm good enough of an artist to explain why drawing is superior for visualization than computers. But if you want to know this, if you want to know for yourself, if you want to experience this for yourself, there's a program you can download, ZBrush, and you can just look up ZBrush screenshots. And in ZBrush, you can, I don't even know how to use it. You can open this program immediately, click a few buttons, and make some shit that looks like something.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't even know how to use it, but I know that if I open up ZBrush right now,
I can zombies.
I can make something that looks cool, and like you'll be like, "Whoa, that's weird and interesting," right?
Like a demonic fish from the sea.
Yes.
A sea creature of sorts from Bilitz.
What if he's like an ancient sea pirate captain, but he carries samurai swords because of his time in Japan?
Maybe there were orcs in another dimension.
What if there's orcs living at the bottom of the ocean and they have gills? That would be badass gore. Okay. So you can open up ZBrush and make something cool. It's super easy for anybody that's even close to fluent in any 3D program to make a shape that looks aggressive. And you know, when people talk about cars, they go, "Oh, that's aggressive looking."
Yeah.
You've heard that. Nothing to do with beauty, nothing to do with righteous paying tribute to God, nothing to do with something that is geometrically appropriate. It's just aggressive looking. Can you type in aggressive looking car right now, Chris?
So just
so I can get mad and more mad.
To take a quick bullet point, what you're saying is anybody, like my wife, could make a Mitsubishi Lancer on Need for Speed Z that is respectable.
Yes.
In 5 seconds, which is bastardizing the integrity of car design.
If any one of us
God, that's
I actually like that. That's the Mitsuoka. That's probably not designed.
I would beat that car with a baseball bat if I saw it.
Scroll up, Chris.
Don't ever let me be around that car.
Click the third image there. Is that the Gumpert Apollo? Which is actually doesn't piss me off that bad, but those are both fucking nasty.
The one on the right.
Let's do the Lamborghini Veneno, the _
the gray one,
the gray one lower right there. So this is this type of shit.
Yeah.
Any one of us, if we took 2 weeks to learn Blender or whatever, we could make something that looks that's 40% of the way towards that. Okay, and then the extra 60% is just putting in the LED strips and the little LED projector lights and making the wheels have the ventilation on them and all that shit. It's just so far removed from what is a human creative process, which is visualizing in your mind versus when you visualize in the tool, which is the 3D design thing. What you're doing is you're letting the tool express itself. You're letting computers and 3D programs express their nature as opposed to you expressing your nature as a designer. Okay.
Yep.
The other thing that happened was the switch over from metal to plastic, and that is a similar thing. The way that materials express themselves in the world, they have, like, metal has a way that it wants to express itself, and it doesn't want to be formed into certain shapes. It's very difficult to form it into certain shapes. Plastic can be formed into anything.
Yeah. So
these angles here that any GM designer would look at this in the 60s and say, that's impossible. You could never make that because it would be impossible to get the tooling and make shapes like this. But you can do it in plastic, and that's not a good thing. It's the limitation that sets humans up to express themselves appropriately. I don't know. But I think there's a similar thing with boxing versus MMA, and I like watching MMA. It's interesting to watch, but you can counter a beautiful striker with grappling, for example. And if you watch Khabib fight, it's very ugly. Yeah. There's nothing, it's not even, I wouldn't even, just to call it a martial art at that point, it's like hideous. Can you look up Khabib striking on YouTube? He looks like my stepbrother. He looks like a fucking idiot.
Yeah, he looks like he sells tap out shirts at the MMA shows.
yeah. Khabib striking. Mm. And that's not to say that it's go back.
I wish Justin Gaethje just won every fight ever. I wish Justin Gaethje was Khabib's record.
Me too. 1 minute of Khabib fighting like a fish out of water. That'll do it. He looks like he just joined the class.
Yeah. He looks like Matt. He looks like his name's Matt and he got dumped. He's trying to turn his life around. Wow.
Very nice.
Yeah. And then there's just people that are like statisticians that are just gonna call, that are gonna shit all over this reality of us talking about this.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's ultimately people worship success and performance and money.
Stats.
That's
so fucking annoying.
Stats is how you tap into the mind of
a
Matt.
Fucking retard.
Matt.
It goes 0 to 60 in 2.1 seconds.
Yeah, man.
And you're like, who fucking cares?
Yeah, man. Can you type in performance casual outfit on Google Images?
Performance casual, yes.
You know those the shoes that drive me fucking crazy?
I know the one. I'll describe it. It's the one with the white bottoms, right?
Yeah.
It's the, hold on, I know who makes them. They're called the 𝐁𝐲𝐸𝐻.
I was about to say Cole.
Yeah, they're 𝐁𝐲𝐸𝐻. Yeah, they're 𝐁𝐲𝐸𝐻. Oxford. 𝐁𝐲𝐸𝐻 Oxford shoes. With the one on the right with the white bottoms. Yep.
Oh, fucking A. Go back to images, Chris. I see the one that I want to kill. Third one.
Yep.
That right there.
Yeah. That guy's telling you that Khabib's perfect. And the Lamborghini's the best.
Yeah.
And like that shit.
And food that comes in a plastic package is okay.
It's good
to eat.
It's good. Lamborghini Jaihoo.
Oh my God, man.
This is the best.
It's when you're not creative enough to have an identity that's based on anything other than what you think other people's identity is. That's when you're like, oh, best. Stat. What's the best?
Yeah, like I personally, like my favorite fights to watch are like Justin Gaethje.
Mm-hmm.
Like the guy's just leaving it all out there, getting punched in the fucking face.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wonderful to watch this guy fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's like tough as nails.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God.
Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, Tony Ferguson. Fucking. Why?
I'll watch Tony Ferguson lose and be happy.
Say he won.
And say he won.
No, he won.
He
He's
won.
knocked out.
Who gives a fucking shit?
Yeah, put glasses on him, make him look cool.
Yeah. Let me close off the point that I was making.
Yeah.
The reason why boxing is a superior art form to MMA is because MMA, you can counter a beautiful, perfect striker with some weird technique. Like if you have a really good calf kick or something, or if you have a good takedown or whatever. It's just there are so many variables. There are so many variables and ways to like suppress the highest. Like if you cut to take the guy that's the most perfected and sophisticated and artful and bring him down to reality. It's like if you could hit people with bricks at MMA.
Yeah.
It would look totally different, right?
That's the next level.
And it would be less of an art form. It would be sensational and people would want to watch it and they'd be like, "Oh, this is great violence," but it would not be as high of an art form.
Yeah.
So that's my point. The reason why boxing is an elevated art form. And I don't like boxing. I don't ever want to do it again. But it's just true that it is more of an art form.
It's the equivalent of like not Shelby Cobra, but a little bit of that, like sheet metal forming.
It's sheet metal forming
like with the English hammer, whatever they call that thing.
It's more human.
Yeah, it's human.
It's more human.
It has a pulse and skin and nerves.
And you can go down that like best, like number one route.
Yeah.
You can just do that. Like what people say is like, no, MMA is real because it's the closest to real. It's the best. It's the closest to real street fighting. And it's like, well, what if I put you in there with a battle bot?
Yeah.
Now it's closer to real. Now it's closer to real because there's no rules. Yeah. What if the guy has a gun? There's no rules.
What if the guy's in a Chevy S10?
And I'm being hyperbolic. Well, why don't they allow groin kicks? Why don't they allow headbutts? Oh, for safety.
Spitting.
Oh, so you're just making. So now it's an arbitrary set of rules, and what it is, it's the arbitrary set of rules that sells the most Bud Light. If it was real fighting, if it did have headbutts, if it did have groin kicks, if you could soccer kick people, if you could kick people when their hands were on the ground, that would be actual real fighting. But it wouldn't be nearly as much money because the sponsors would say, "Oh, that's barbaric. It's not getting as much views. It's making our brand look bad."
It would be lawyers.
So anyway, that's King of the Streets. That's some. Listen, if you want to counter my argument, by saying that MMA is better than boxing because it's real fighting, you better be watching this. That's what real fighting looks like.
Yeesh.